tractor is here. Guys, Saturday, what is that? April 12th. Well, we didn't get much done this week because it was either raining or snowing. We did get some manure out. They did that, I think, Wednesday morning. So they were pretty quick at getting it done. And I was at work while they did it, so I didn't get any footage of that. But Joe said they made short work of it. So the manure pit's all empty. So the home farm's got all the manure on it for a head of corn. So that should be good. Good fertilizer for the corn. Expecting great things from it. Jokingly, I don't got Mother Nature will decide what we get for corn yield. So I just do my best to mitigate the plant stresses. So anyways, let's get out to the farm, and there's I think something cool to see. You guys probably would have seen from the intro, backing off the truck and stuff like that. I wasn't here when it showed up to unload, but Mom got some video of it. But there's the new workhorse. So got to grab a few things out of the Mom's house there for my wife to take down. She's returning Jumpy Castle from when Andrea's 3rd birthday. She's returning that. And then we got to go get a new PTO pump for the TMR mixer again. Don't know why the other one went, but anyways, we got to go pick that up. I think there was something internally wrong with that one, because the first one we had run that way, it ran for a long time that way. So I think there was probably just something defective within those pumps. So anyways, and then maybe later in the video we'll go over and have a look at that tractor and explain the reasons why we went with it. All right, got the goats fed. I think Joe was able to get some feed out to those guys. We switched feeding these guys the whole corn, so we got to go grab them a scoop of their supplement. With just the few that we have to make, it was getting difficult to keep the feed fresh in front of them while also mixing an accurate mix. So this stuff is like a higher protein, so you don't feed very much of it. So we just leave the corn and just sprinkle her on top. And hopefully they all get a nice round finish. It's pretty low maintenance feeding strategy. So anyways, we'll I think I'll hop in the truck and we'll go get that motor, or the hydraulic motor. I think they're only open till 4 today, and stuff. Time can get away on us on this farm. So we'll go get that first thing, get the mixer fixed up, and then get started on. I might get started on getting our planter tractor, all the planter cables and everything in it, like the fold box, my air lines. I got to run a couple cables to the battery. And I get that all done, and then next week I'll see if I can get the Deere dealer to drop off the new auto steer monitor and receiver for that tractor, so I can get that installed one night after work and make sure everything's walking and talking before we're in the fields busy, and I get even busier at work. Where I can send you guys. Well, we got where the Princess Auto is, it's on the other side of London, so we got a bit of a drive. So I thought I'd take this time to kind of explain our thoughts and sort of the reasoning behind why we went with such a big tractor for our size of operation. So first thing, the reason we're doing something on a tractor was our John Deere tractor with a 7R. It was leased with John Deere, and that lease was up this June. So we needed to do something regardless of, outside of, it's nice always to get a new tractor or whatever. So anyway, so we had to do that. I wanted to do it before planting because I didn't want that lease was up, and if I still had to do some planting or whatever, then I didn't want to be doing something and trying to figure out or hash out a deal post planting, because usually the used tractor inventory is pretty well used up, pretty dry, and there's not a whole lot to choose from. So anyways, we were looking to stay Deere because I really like that tractor, and they're super nice tractors to drive, but the price range that we wanted to stay in, we could have stayed John Deere, but we were looking at tractors with 6,000 to 7,000 hours, and wow, we would be going from a tractor with 1,400 hours when we leased it. And that's the other wild part is when we leased our tractor 5 years ago to what tractors are worth now is just absolutely insane. So with our lease, we had a bit of equity in it. So equity is, so when you lease something, they set a residual value, say for 100,000, because that's what they think that tractor is going to be worth in 5 years. And then what the purchase price is, that's the principal that you're leasing, and then they charge interest on top of that. And in the past, that's always been the cheapest, because as the tractors are newer, they always were going to be more value, so they could really mess with the residual to keep your payments down. But anyways, then they jumped insanely high, and then our tractor was old enough. When we leased it, it was a brand new tractor, but it was a 2017, and we leased it in, I think it was, it'd be 19. Yes, we leased it in 19. So, anyways, we then started looking at Case IH or Magnum tractors, and the same thing with them is they were, anything that was in good shape, low houred, was a little more money, and then anything that was in our price range was high hours. We just weren't really keen on buying something with high hours and working and using it for tillage or whatever. So they Then we started looking at 4-wheel drives because there were some higher hour 4-wheel drive tractors. So 9R410s, 9R470s. Those are really nice tractors. Went and looked at them. Again, higher hours, but we thought, well, with the higher hours on those big rigs, like not as common, and all the tillage implements that we have, you know, aren't going to be high draft requirement for them, so that they'll be able to pull whatever we have and not work the snot out of them. But then I don't know, Joe was looking online and saw this Quadtrac, got some numbers on it. It was considerably cheaper than the John Deere's. Didn't have a PTO. Even after adding a PTO to it, it was still about $30,000 less than the next closest John Deere, and it had 3,370 hours. So the one tractor had 1,800 hours less than it, and the other tractor it had 700 hours less. The tracks, when we get around it, the tracks do look a little tough, but it does come with 2 new tracks. So we just probably this fall or winter, or this spring, or maybe this summer, I don't know if we'll get to it this spring, we'll swap out the tracks that are in the worst shape and then just get 2 other tracks, and then we should be good for a while. So those other tractors, the one tractor was fairly close in price, but it was likely going to need new tires, so no different than the Quadtrac needing tracks. Tires and tracks are about the same price. The other ones were going to be really wide on the road. Again, they're nice tractors, but this Quadtrac's going to be narrow on the road. It's going to have all kinds of power because it's 500 horse, but you can chip these things to 600 because it's the same thing as a 600 quad. It's just rated for 500 horse. So yeah, it does have a 3-point hitch, so that's why we went with that tractor. It's lots of tractor. We'll grow into it. It's got low enough hours. We're probably never going to outgrow it. So it'll easily pull our cultivator or whatever we want to put behind it this spring. When we get the PTO on, it's going to be nice on the buggy because you're high up. You can see better, and it'll have lots of power that it'll be able to pull the buggy wherever it wants. With the tracks, we're not going to have, you know, the compaction issues. So it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see how we adjust to driving an articulated tractor, but I think we'll pick up on it pretty quick. And yeah, lots of tractor, big tractor, but we've often found that it hasn't always been a bad move to buy something a little bigger than you think you need, than getting something that, like, in all honesty, when we started leasing Deeres, we should have probably just started off leasing an 8R 235 instead of a 7R 270. But then we probably would have just bought out the 8R or whatever, right? But that 7R was just, it had enough horsepower, but it was lacking the frame and the weight to do fall tillage with it. It got pushed around a little bit with the buggy when we were loaded in some of the hills that we farm. So yeah, won't have that problem anymore. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna go pick up these parts, and then when we get back, we'll get that mixer fixed. All right, guys, I'm back from doing my running around. We got to get so when they ship it for height clearance, they take this stack for the clean air intake, so we got to get that mounted up. And yeah, 500 Quadtrac tracks got a little bit of wear on, or on some of them they got a little bit of wear, but For the 25-30 hours, we're probably going to put it on this spring, and then when we get that done, we got to install the PTO on it. So 38-foot cultivator used to be a big tug for the 210 working ground. Now this thing probably won't even hardly notice that it's behind it, and if there is, there's something wrong with the engine. But that's another reason too. These new Quadtracs. So this is my 2011. So it's their first year with DEF on it, and we had a couple case Pumas that were the first generation DEF, and honestly, it didn't burn a whole lot of DEF. Drivetrains were good on them, so this thing's pretty good with the low hours on it. All the drive shafts and U-joints and bearings are all pretty good. The pivot points and bushings are really tight, so it's not jerky when we're steering it. And yeah, and it's got auto steer. So we'll get that stack installed, and then we'll may fire it up. And I don't know, it's kind of wet and sloppy. I don't want to get it all covered in mud. If it was a little drier, we'd maybe move the cultivator around, and which I still might do. Pull the cultivator out and give it a once over. Make sure we got all the points and everything that are on it. I got a few spare points and hardware if we got to put new points on it, and maybe get the cab a little bit of a vacuum and clean up as well too. But let's get this stack on. There, got that all on. Now it doesn't look as goofy. That's one thing I noticed when I first rolled in, looking at it yesterday. It was missing the air intake. Anyways, get that on. So, also too, I treated myself. These were on clearance at a Milwaukee dealer, and I got the metric and SAE one. I think I got saved. I think they were 25% off, so decent savings. Really nice with these pack outs. Everything's contained. This has got a gasket on it for it being weather sealed, and it just snaps on top of my my toolbox. So when I'm working on planters and stuff like that, I like to have tools with me in the truck. And I was buying those cheaper, you know, in Canada we call it Mastercraft or Stanley, and you know, those toolboxes are all great, but you get working on stuff and the sockets don't hold in place, and then you lose sockets, and you always lose the common size that you're using all the time, like 10 mil, 9/16, half inch. So, and then, you know, you could say, oh, just go buy the right one, and then they're a little bit different, they don't snap in there. Well, this thing here with its own little case and everything held in there really well and organized, it will the plan is, well, hopefully I have them for a long time and I don't lose them. So, and Milwaukee makes good fasteners stuff, and so I got my pack outs. So that's the first pack out I bought, and really liked it. It's nice to get caught in the rain with tools or something like that. And yeah, so we just snap on top like this. So that's a self-contained unit. And then I've got my 1/2 inch drive ratchet, my other M12 batteries. So really nice for working on stuff. So we got that tractor, got the air intake on it. We'll go shut the cab. I think I forgot to shut the cab door, but we got to go get that pump swapped around on the mixer so we can finish feeding, and then we'll go get started on the 210. Might back to 210 up. Out of that corner there, back into here where it's a little drier if I got to get underneath it. So on our MX 210, a couple years back we went and converted it to Green Star Guidance and spent a little extra, and we put an isobus plug out the back because this thing was of the vintage that isobus wasn't a thing back then. So we added that plug. So I need to, that's where the planter will plug into. I'll get the planter fold box one mounted up there, and I'll get the clean sweep one there, and then lights. And then there's a couple other power cables that we need to install so that we can run our electric pump, which we might be able to run it off of this one. I just have to see if we've got the other side of that plug. If not, I could just run into town to get one. Because I had a weather pack connector on there, but I might switch it to that Anderson plug so that it's a little more secure one. That's the trend. We got nice clean cab. So currently running a John Deere 4240 display with the ATU 300 because this one didn't have the steering valve in it. So to get everything mounted in that needs to be mounted in here, and then we're gonna maybe add a couple more electrical plugs because to run our planter I need power for my keyed switch for my master switch on my John Deere rate controller, and then I think when we go, I think there's something else. Oh, my clean sweep needs one, but I think I've got enough plugs in here right now. But it would be nice if we had a couple more so I don't have a whole bunch of wires dangling here. But like I said, I got zip ties and we've got time right now. We don't need to necessarily rush through this install. So, own this tractor since new. Dad bought it brand new. We've put every hour on it that its current tack is reading, and we got the fuel gauge fixed on it, so that'll be nice. Know exactly how much fuel's in here. When Dad was around, it was just cheaper to always fill it before you leave. But anyways, not how Joe and I want to operate. Let's see if I can get pitch to go down so it's out of the way. Make things a little easier to install. So let's get at her. Alright, so I found the butt connectors that I needed. And just get the heat gun warming up. Got an electric heat gun. It works awesome for these. You can see, because those little torches or whatever, they burn them before, like they shrink quick, but these just get a really good they seal up and they work pretty good. So cut about 4 feet of wire out of there, so there's less up there that we got to find a spot to hide, and that should keep things looking relatively civil back there. All right, guys, so I got it backed up to the tractor and everything's come up the way it's supposed to. I don't have a radar, so I'm not sure how I get radar speed from this tractor onto here, but anyways, so fairly familiar with, if you're familiar with John Deere stuff, it it all works the same. So anyways, we'll I got the 3-point hitch. I thought I could lift it up, anyways I got it stuck, but anyways, all the cables and everything are long enough, I think, so we should be in a pretty good position that way. I'm just gonna go find and order some mounts to mount stuff up, and I think we should be good. All right, guys, there's the pit emptied, so not a lot of solids left. Just got a call, they're gonna get some 28 delivered here, so I'm just grabbing a hose to fill the other tanks, and so we just have to hook up the at the one spot with the truck, and then we can easily fill everything. So get my hose over there, and he was just loading up before he was coming over here, so we got some time, but make sure we got enough here, enough spot. I'm all set up and ready for him, so I'm not wasting anybody's time on a Saturday. So just absolute beauty day. Beauty day. All right, truck's here, so we'll get them backed up to the tanks here, and then we'll start unloading. Try to use universal hand signs, but sometimes I'm not that great. So he's bringing about 7,200 gallons of 28. So we'll get her all unloaded. You'll have to wave to the girls when they watch the video. Yeah, apparently they watch them, big fans. So Dad's gonna be on camera while we'll get unloaded. All right, cab's fed, cab's cleaned out, both sides. The bales of straw I got were a little tough. Our tarp blew away, and we got a big blast of rain, so that it's kind of little damp and musty, and they just crack them open, and there's still a decent amount of dry straw there. Like I said, it's not, after about 2 days you can hardly tell that we've put straw in there, so get the doors shut up
in case it gets cool. But they'll be happy. Lots of fresh bedding. I'll clean them up a bit. This is that oat straw there. So yeah, the bales, when you break them apart, look a little tough. And then they kick it around and all the light stuff, fluffy, dry stuff is exposed. So anyways, that's pretty well wraps it up for today. I'm gonna put stuff away in case it rains tomorrow. I don't know, the calf feeder was acting weird. I might investigate a little bit on that. See what's up with that. But anyways, get the doors sealed up. Did I hit it? Nope. All right, I'm gonna put you guys down. See you tomorrow.
Hey guys, catching up with you here. It's Sunday the next day. Absolute beauty day. I think what we'll do, I did chores this morning before hockey, but I think I'll swap out to different boots and we'll maybe
get some winter wheat and see how it's coming along. I haven't got any fertilizer on it yet, but just because the fields haven't been able to carry, and I also didn't like the forecast with heavy rains to just wash all that fertilizer away. But since it's a nice sunny day and it's warm out, we'll maybe go look at some winter wheat fields and see how they made it through the winter. Wheat looks pretty good, all things considering. I've got some better looking wheat that was planted earlier. This was planted just before Thanksgiving. So we got a few fall tillers here. I would argue it's just nicely starting to break dormancy. These leaves here are probably just from frost and snow mold. But the other thing I'm looking while I'm out here is to see if I've got any winter annuals like fleabane, chickweeds, dandelions. One thing I did this year right after planting is I sprayed it with glyphosate at a high rate to get the dandelions and the weeds, because the wheat's going to be the first thing that is going to take off outside of the fleabanes and other weeds. So we'll see how this all comes up. I'm not seeing anything as of right now, but I'm sure you get 4 or 5 days in a row like this, we might start to see some stuff. Probably won't carry because those were the water laid. You can see where it pushed the soybean stubble up and the corn stalks that are left over from 2 years ago. All right, so we're in the other wheat field. This mess here is where I charged my sprayer boom to desiccate the edible beans last year. Side note, high rates of Aragon stay in the soil. And then that there is, when we were doing the edible beans, we had oats in there, and Joe just dumped them on the ground, and we were supposed to come back and spread them out, and we didn't get to it. But you can see this wheat here is a lot bigger than the wheat at the home farm there. So these are in after edible beans, so it was planted a lot earlier. So when we look here, when we look at a plant, let's see if I can dig one up. So get down here and we'll dig one up. So there we go. when we look here at these plants here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good tiller, or I don't know if you guys can see that. We look at this single plant here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good tillers. And the other ones we're averaging probably 2 to 3. So this wheat is planted 10 days sooner, same seeding rate, same fertilizer. So pretty good wheat crop here. And that's kind of the advantage of planting edible beans, is they come off harvest earlier so you can get your wheat in. And there's always your best wheat follows edible beans. So this wheat here will probably just do 40% of the total nitrogen needs when we get to that point. But now if it rains and we get another 2 weeks, I might just do all the nitrogen. It doesn't hurt to actually starve the wheat a little bit. So you can see here too that these are thick, strong plants. They've overwintered well and pretty much have the rows closed in comparison to the wheat at the home farm. A little different soil there. It's you can see there's a lot more stone in here, so it's a little better draining, so it handles the water well. But not bad looking wheat. We're for sure gonna try and get the sulfur on this wheat. Wheat needs sulfur early, and nitrogen, it doesn't really need it till past flag leaf. Well, the problem with putting nitrogen on later, in wheat particularly, is the nitrogen fertilizer burns the leaves. And so then you injure the plant that it's not able to harvest as much sunlight and create sugars, that then it stores those sugars into starches. But anyways, looks pretty good. Catch up with you guys in a little bit. All right. Use the big girl to... All right, so I'm working on the air seeder here. And that's the beauty part about working on the air seeders. It's like a big jungle gym for adults. So that row there needs a new spring, which I happen to have one. And it's in a nice awkward spot to work on. So I'll show you guys how I change that spring out. So if the depth adjuster works, you drop the depth on the wheel all the way to the bottom, so that I've got clearance. I can put the impact on this side, loosen that off, and then the closing wheel arm can go out, slap that new disc or spring on. So what breaks on them is usually, that's where they all break, that last bend that goes in here, and then they snap, and then they don't have any pressure. Now these things are heavy enough that in mellow ground they will still close. But what happens with that spring, without that spring pressure, you don't get enough packing in certain soil types, and then the soil dries out and you get poor germination. So I want to make sure these things are all working properly. Looks like I've got one more right here and one more there, and I've got one at the back. So I need to get 2 more right hand ones, I think they're left hand ones. I don't know, we usually order them in pairs, so if we get 6, we usually get 3 of one and 3 of the other. And we always like to have a couple on hand because they do break throughout the season. So using up the ones that we didn't use up last year, so we'll use them all this year. doesn't help too that it sits outside because it doesn't fit in her. Well, it used to fit in her shed. I really should see if I can get it inside this winter if I still own it. There, pops off. Grab the new one. Put the new one on there, just like so. Arm back up. Wrench, switch the gun, impact. So you can see there, we got the new one there, and that'll hold the closing wheel arm in place. I'm gonna do that one at the back, and then we'll get two more. Finish up here, and then some spares for throughout the season. I think there's another one right there as well. It's the beauty thing of this air seeder, you just look at it wrong and there's something to fix on it. Well, Quadtrac versus foam. Not good. I was due. Usually I run over at least one phone a year. And you know what? It's always when I'm running or working on the air seeder, because I take climbing in and out of it, I take it out of my pocket and I put it on the bar and I forget where I set it, and yeah. So it fell off the air seeder bar, and just my luck, I found it with the Quadtrac, and it looks like just a part of a lug caught it. So Quadtrac 1, phone 0. So anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. Until next time, keep it between the ditches.